Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing uncommonly well today. And if you're new here, please click the link in the description box and go to the page on which I have posted this video and see a summarization of what I have spoken about and some pictures of the manse. And so today I would like to share with you before you go about your routine work or something that you have to sort or put away or file or clean that is rather monotonous while you listen to Homemakers Radio, which is the whole purpose of the thing. It's like in the olden days when we listened to the radio while we washed the dishes. And so today, before I go, I'm going to share my teacup with you. Um, One of my grandchildren liked this one the best. It's a really nice thin cup. It has this beautiful green in it, and it is by Call Gracie Bone China. I got it at Home Goods a few years ago. I haven't been there in a while, but I should go and show my face there, shouldn't I? Maybe they would appreciate me buying something. And today I am sitting in one of the, it used to be one of my children's bedrooms, and it is a guest room now, which is rarely used during the winter. We don't encourage our family to come and see us in the winter if they have to go over a dangerous pass or through snow. We'll just talk to them on the phone or do a Zoom because we just really feel kind of nervous of them traveling in the winter. And so this is the forest room, and I changed it to a forest theme a few years ago when I was trying to turn each room into a theme for a vacation holiday for my descendants when they came in the summer. And this was going to be the lake view room or the lakeside room or the cottage by the lake room with the forest. So as you see, I've pulled out old fake trees that I've had that I was probably going to take to Goodwill at one time or another and just left them up and used this as a forest atmosphere. And so then I also want to show you my paper bag challenge. And because I didn't do it, I checked the mail today. In fact, one of the reasons I am uncommonly well is because I have been on my Austen World walk, my Regency walk already today, and I have done the 3 minute slow walking followed by the 30-second fast walking 3 times for 2 times amounting to about 5 minutes. And I have checked the mail, and I've had a drink of lemon in hot water with a spice as a tea today, and I have had good mail. I went to check the mail. I walked down a little road to where the box is, where the mail truck comes, and somebody named Christine in Nampa cleverly made me a brown paper bag letter and mail. This is so smart. And look there, there's a nice sticker on the back. And she's written a letter, and look what she did. She scalloped the edges of it. Isn't that pretty? And she wrote me a letter on this. And then she put little dots around it, little black dots around it. And then she made me, and I'm wanting to share this paper bag challenge. She also made the envelope, the big envelope of which she inserted the letter. And the only thing is, ladies, you have to remember, if you're going to do something this big, take it to the post office and have them give you the exact post cost, okay? It might be just a little bit different than you think it is. And so she has made me a little banner, a little sign from a scripture that I quoted once: let all you do be done in love. Now, what a clever idea to have these around your house. And I took the liberty of making a little loop, which I pasted on the back out of brown paper to hang it up. And I particularly like this because I didn't have to make it. And I was trying to think of what I was going to do. Also, I'll be showing this to my descendants for the paper bag challenge. Of course, I'll give credit to Christine. But look at this little banner, and how you can easily change the signs and the quotes and the scriptures throughout a week or a month or a year with no cost, and not have an accumulation of things that you have to store we love Hobby Lobby. We love to get our signs and things there. They're just beautiful. But it's nice to learn how to do it yourself. And so I'll be hanging this up in here. And so I just love that. So, and then I have I have something else for you, is that I got a package from my daughter, and she sent me, we just love sending packages to each other, and she sent me hibiscus, strawberry, and raspberry herbal tea by Simple Organic Truth, organically grown. Okay, I wanted to tell you something about when you get something like this, and I like it that it's in a little cellophane package. Make this in a cup or a pot. Leave the lid off the pot and then leave the room and come back in. It is so refreshing, as Darcy's sister would say. Not her, but the other one. One of the reasons Pride and Prejudice, the 1995 version, which I felt was so good, was because one of the characters was Miss Bingley, I think it was actually a distant cousin of Jane Austen. She was a great 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 aunt or something like that, and so she had a special affinity to this author and to the production. So the smell and the scent of this is so good for you and so good for your home. Put it in a pot of hot water, leave the lid off, go for your Jane Austen walk, and then come back in and smell it. And this is a series of 5. I've also am uncommonly well because I talked to a friend today. So I've been for my Jane Austen walk. I have had a cup of tea with lemon in it. I have checked the mail, and I have made a pot of this. And then I've talked to a friend on the phone. And so these are just little 5-minute things that I have done. And one of my friends and I have been cooking up some 5-minute things to have on a list to do to refresh yourself. And homemakers often suffer from isolation. Sometimes they think that, and over the years it's been the same, because what we do, we can't do in a group. Even if you have your children at home and you're homeschooling them and you're cleaning up the kitchen, you can't all do the same job. And so sometimes it's just better to let one do one job rather than always in a group. And you have to get away from the group idea. Your jobs are going to be a little bit lonely. So that's why I invented Homemakers Radio. So you would have something to listen to while you worked. Maybe it would amuse you, maybe not. These are just my own ideas and not anything that I say everyone has to do. It's what I do. And it also cheers me up to hear from you and to get your letters and your emails and also your comments. And so I have a few things to tell you about some of the things that I have discovered. My friend and I were talking about this drinking a healthful drink. She'd had a sore throat. And so what she did was she just went to her spice cabinet. She got out the thyme, oregano, lemon, and a cinnamon and a couple of other things. And she put them in her French press so she wouldn't have all the leaves and things to worry about in her drink. And she made herself a hot drink with this and made her own type of tea. So we're not helpless. We don't have to order a special organic tea. We've probably got things around that you can use right there in your house. I thought it was quite interesting how she took her mother, she said that her mother would always be aware that her children might be getting sick. So she would give them a cinnamon, hot water and cinnamon and something else in it. I'm thinking it might have been lemon or orange juice. And then she would fill the bathtub up and full of really good warm water and have them sit in there and drink this drink, each one of them at a time, and wrap them in a warm towel and get them in their pajamas. And she said they always overcame any kind of little sniffle that they had, and that she remembered this so well that she's continued in this respect. Now, we had talked a little bit about the Jane Austen diet. I'm just about finished with it. I have skipped some of it. I don't think I have read the chapter Jane Austen Eats Meat. But I wanted to read Drinks with Jane. I don't drink. I've never touched alcohol. It's never been on my lips, and I'm 70 years old. And I I wanted to drink. I wanted to read something about drinking in here, but I don't want to support drinking. That's up to your own conscience. I can't be your conscience for you. But I'm also not going to read about what he says about drinking, because I don't want anybody to get the idea, especially if you're vulnerable or you're young and impressionable. I don't want to promote it if I can, if I can help it. However, I will read a couple of things here about soda that he writes. So, where the waters do agree. Now, I mentioned a drink that you could make out of chopped up rinds of grapefruit, orange, lime, and lemon, and you boil it and you drain off the water and you take a couple of teaspoons a day, and how it would keep sore throats away. Well, one thing that I've found that's a lot easier is to get a little goblet, a little fancy glass, and fill it with distilled water or really nice purified water, and put a slice of grapefruit in it or a slice of lemon in it. Just a lot quicker, faster, less trouble. And so I want to read the article he has written here called Where the Waters Do Agree. Now, I don't want to... Now, I suppose there's always been the question and the controversy around whether they actually drank the type of liquor that people drink today that's fortified, or whether it was natural. He claims it was just natural and that they made it themselves. I listened to a real interesting... That's another thing I did. I learned something new. So if I were to have a list of all the things I did that were 5-minute things, and one of them was going to find out something about the Pilgrims on the Mayflower and why they why they were so sick on the Mayflower, and I learned something about it. I could put the link so you could listen to it yourself, but it had something to do with the fact that they didn't drink water, and one of the reasons they didn't drink it is it was apparently bad for them in the places that they lived. But so I did read the part about drinking tea, but now I'm going to read about the waters, where the waters do agree. Now that we've thoroughly praised the kettle, he's referring to the tea time part, and I did read that to you a few weeks ago, we can move on to the pump. Plain water wasn't exactly a barred Regency beverage, but some waters were considered markedly healthier than others. Specifically, the water bubbling up from England's mineral springs had been credited with health-giving properties since the Roman occupation of the island. The Romans founded an entire spa town around one of these springs in southern England, calling it Aquasulis. Still thriving at the turn of the 17th century, Austen called it Bath. Every reader of Northanger Abbey or Persuasion knows about Bath, the Regency hydro resort where the sick and health sapped go to take the waters. Pouring from a decorative pump just above the natural spring, you're sure to find a friendly face. If I could just get the page to turn. In the elegant room at Bath. Some are there for serious health reasons, such as Admiral Croft or Mr. Allen, drinking his glass of water to relieve his gouty constitution. Others enjoy it as an added health bonus. Mrs. Elton of Emma remembers her mineral water regimen in glowing terms. Let me recommend Bath to you, where the waters do agree. It is quite wonderful the relief they give. Austen herself lived 5 years in Bath, frequently passing the pump room with its famous inscription etched over the doorway, "Water is best," meaning, of course, mineral water is best. But is it really? Are there modern benefits in becoming, like Anne Elliot, a person in Bath who drinks the water? Do you remember I believe it was the 1990s, I believe maybe it was BBC production of Persuasion, in which there was the pump room scene in which they were drinking the waters, special mineral waters. Very good. The water has been of use to her. To put it in modern terms, the water in Persuasion's pump room was naturally hard. Hard water, unlike soft water, is rich in natural mineral salts, the stuff that leaves scummy residue on some of our showers, the same stuff that was forever building up on the pump room's pump in Bath, stuff that could have significant health impacts. That's interesting. Around the 1970s, scientists in Britain first began noticing an interesting anomaly. People who lived in hard water regions tended to have less heart disease than their soft water drinking neighbors. Recent explanations have centered on magnesium, one of the primary minerals found in hard water. Essential to heart health, magnesium helps regulate our blood pressure, maintains heart rhythms, and, in a reverse blessing to what hard water does to our showers, keeps our arteries clean from plaque buildup. Like most mineral water today, magnesium was part of the chemical makeup of Bath's water. Even Austen got incredibly close to realizing its benefits were heart-related. "The water promotes a better circulation of the blood," she told her sister, repeating the words of an intelligent doctor treating her brother in Bath in 1799. Drinking mineral water is also one of the easier ways to add a valuable bit of magnesium to your diet. Magnesium has always been a tricky mineral to get strictly from food, accounting for why most Americans are now magnesium deficient. So unless you live in a hard water region, you might want to splash out on the modern equivalent of a trip to Bath, buying the occasional bottle of mineral water. Many European brands have naturally higher magnesium levels, usually listed on their labels, along with other beneficial minerals, including calcium, iron, and potassium. Most contain some of the same 42 minerals that gurgled out of the pump at Bath, posing the question, was it really Mr. Tilney or Miracle Mineral Water that made Catherine hasten to the pump room the next day with more than usual eagerness? A happy alternative to soda. In case you're still wondering, she felt it incumbent on her to hint soda is not included in the Regency beverage package. Living decades before the first carbonated soft drinks were mass-produced meant Austen simply made do without them, which, lucky for her, meant living without the now #1 source of empty calories in modern diets. Soda is essentially water with 9 teaspoons of sugar in each pop. But Austen didn't go entirely without these pops and bubbles either. You'll find the refreshing alternative in Emma. So, the Regency equivalent of homemade root beer with an evergreen twist. Spruce beer is a favorite summer drink of both Emma and Mr. Knightley. Talking about spruce beer, the homemade equivalent of root beer. Oh yes, and by the way, root beer isn't the natural product it used to be either. It's still just a flavoring with a fizz. Oh yes, Mr. Knightley are both saying we liked it. Flavored with the vitamin-rich leaves of the spruce fir, spruce beer was even considered a diet drink by many doctors. With far less sugar than modern soda, it is highly refreshing in summer and sits easy on the most debilitated stomach, remarked a practical treatise on diet in 1801. We are brewing spruce beer again, said Austen excitedly. Try bubbling up a batch yourself with the updated recipe at the end of this chapter. Let me see what it is, to be sure. Spruce beer. It's a lemon, 2 sprigs of fresh rosemary, a cup of water, a cup of sugar, a fourth teaspoon of ground ginger, and sparkling mineral water. Interesting. Tea, water, Regency pop. My, what a continual supply of the most amiable and innocent enjoyments. But when does so now he gets into alcohol. So I don't want to read that, but if you've got the book, you can read it yourself. Now, there was another book I really liked, and it was The Butler's Guide to Managing the Home, and it had a chapter on serving alcohol. Anytime you're raising kids, you have to make sure that they understand where you stand on that. And if you will keep your diet really strong in good nutrition and food and natural things, they may not ever develop a desire for some of the things that aren't so natural. So now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about these 5-minute things that my friends and I have been tapping each other's brains for ideas. And first I want to explain a little bit about this room that I'm in, and it's my forest room, but I wanted to have a mail room too, a letter room, a place where I could keep my stack of incoming mail and have a place to write and not mess up the dining room table. I know that many of us use our dining room tables, or maybe an extra table that we have, and then you have to clear it all off when it's time to paint, or for your painting lesson, and then you have to clear it all off when someone comes to tea, and then you have to, and that's nice. They say tables have such wonderful memories, but I wanted one that I could keep out if I hadn't finished writing the letter. Because once I've gathered it all up, then I've got to put it in the container and then go hunt up where did I put everything, the stamps, everything. So this way I can keep it all out. And so I have made a letter room out of this room until the descendants descend on it again. And so these 5-minute things. But first I wanted to say, I have heard from so many people, and I have seen it written on other comments on other people's sites and blogs, how there are some women who really long to be in a different era. They don't like the fashion today. They don't like the clothes they're stuck with. They don't like the activities. They don't like the life, the busy, noisy life that they're forced into. But I want to say that you don't have to wait, and you don't have to bemoan that fact that you were born after your time, and that you should have been born in the Regency era, or you should have been born in the Victorian era. You really like the 1950s. You don't have to put off enjoying life. You can just get as close to the idea as possible. And this is what a lot of women my age have done. I always admired the old houses of the 1800s, and of course I didn't end up in one, but I could fill it with things that reminded me of it and put little different architectural interests in it and get as close to it as I can. And I can wear the clothes that are most like it. And it doesn't take much. All you have to do to get into the Regency era or the Victorian era or the 1940s or any era that you particularly like and wish that you could follow a slower lifestyle is just make your dresses longer, make your skirts longer. Just you already have it. Once you get a longer dress, you feel differently. Grow your hair a little bit and have the tea of the times. Drink out of a teacup and just spend time reading books. Do the things that people used to do in the past. And find another thing that we did before we even had the internet. It's interesting how we connected with people because we found groups. I don't know how we did it, whether it was advertised in the little local papers, or we saw a sign on a bulletin board somewhere, or we got an invitation somehow to join with a group that was going to have a Pioneer Day. And we did have friends in homeschool that knew we all had connections somehow. And we would go to the Pioneer Day and spend a day doing pioneer things. We dressed as pioneers, and we had a pioneer meal, and we sat inside of a a facsimile of the Pioneer wagon, and we sang Pioneer songs, and we spent a wonderful day, and we had campfire tea and activities and games and songs and stories and races and things like that with our children on these pioneer days. It's really good to tap into your roots and to celebrate them and to honor those people before you. So if you want to have a Victorian Day or a Regency Day or a 1940s Day or even a Bible Times Day, you can do that. And if you're raising your children in homeschool, you have even more freedom to do that. You can have a special day. You say, tomorrow we're going to dress up, we're going to eat this kind of food, and we're going to do this and do that in similar fashion. And each child can have a project that they show that came from that era. And that is how we teach them to have. You can have your own seminars at home. Have you ever longed to go where there were people of like mind and you had a program? Well, you could just do that for yourself and for your family at home. And so we would find a group, and so get as close to the idea as you can. You don't have to actually have it all authentic, but get as close to whatever it is you want to do. For example, I do admire the Pioneer era, and so I have thought about changing one of the smaller rooms into a Pioneer type of room, or kind of Stogan wagon, like what it would be like on the inside. There's so much that we can do with our homes, but I think we get too practical sometimes as women. We have so much to do. By the time we finish the work that it entails at home, we're ready not to start something new. So find a group that feels like you do, that you can communicate with. Bring your idea as close to the original as possible. It doesn't mean you will have it perfectly, but at least you'll be headed in that direction. And I've said this to a lot of women who want to come home, who want to be keepers of the home. And I had a note about that, about being keepers of the home, as the word guard is in there. Guard the home. And when you think of a guard, when you think about a guard, here's something interesting that you might not have thought of regarding guarding something or guarding the home. When you go to the airport at night and there aren't very many planes coming in, there's a guard. There are several guards that they're hired just to stand there or to walk around. They don't look like they're doing much at all. They're just keeping an eye on things. And so we went through this era where people would say rude things about homemakers. And they would say, well, she doesn't do anything all day. She's just at home. She's not doing anything. It doesn't appear like we are doing anything. But we could be just keeping our eye on everything, guarding everything, and just being there to see to the home. And someone who's at home is keeping what they would call the home fires burning, keeping everything neat and tidy, keeping it accessible to anyone who needs to come there, and in a way keeping your eye on it. An empty house doesn't do anybody any good. It doesn't have the same atmosphere as though someone were there. And so why would you say that a guard at an airport wasn't doing anything for his salary or for his living? You never would you? You would respect that as a profession, and a guard was necessary. Yes, we have to guard some of these places. Well, why not understand that, where it says that the women in Titus 2 are to guard the home and guide the home? Would you say that any kind of a guard that was hired just to stand there? You look at the guards at castles and other places; they just stand there. And would you say they don't do anything? Well, it's the same with the homemaker. She's at home guarding the home. Maybe she's not feeling too well. Maybe she's just sitting in a chair, listening to something or looking out the window and watching the sunset. Would you say that she's not doing anything? Well, sometimes very ignorant, rude people would say that. But she is guarding it. When we come to realize that, we have a lot more respect for homemakers and for being at home. A lot of people don't see it in the same way that we do. They think that if you're at home and you're a woman, that you're going to be bored, you're going to be useless, you're not going to contribute much to society. We've got to quit thinking of it in that respect, but think of it as being a guard. Do you know that we are guards even when we sleep? The minute we hear something that is odd, we're up out of that bed, aren't we? We're up looking around. We see to everything. We see that everything is closed down at night. We look and make sure everything's turned off. The water's turned off. The burners are turned off. Everything, the lights are off. We just really are watching and watchful for this home, and we guard it, and we're alert. And you can't be alert if you have been used up all day long in someone else's place, someone else's business, doing someone else's work. Yes, you're getting paid for it, but you cannot be as alert if your mind has been used up all day long in the service of someone else. And I have thought about this in regards to Deuteronomy 6, where it says, "You shall teach your children as you sit in your house, and as you walk by the way, and as you sleep, and as you eat, and as you just," it had several places, that you would be teaching your children. And it just occurred to me that when I was very young, that you couldn't do that if you sent your children to someone else to be taught, if you sent them to someone else's house or place. And that was one reason I could not in good conscience send my children to be taught. The Israelites probably would never ever have considered sending their children to be taught by the Philistines, their enemies. And that's what's going on in the public schools, is the Philistines are providing the curriculum and command. Even nice Christian teachers have to teach what they are trained for and what they're told. They have to do what they're told. But at home, you can guard against things like that. You can guard against the things that you know are going on at work. And there's no evidence that anything more intelligent is going on at work than at home, except I believe probably more so at home, because you're going to have a chance to read the things of your choice that have value to you. This is one of our 5-minute things, is don't forget to increase to exercise your mind by reading something of value, 5 minutes. And if possible, read it out loud, because it encourages your understanding of it, and when you put expression into it. And when you read, if I gave you 5 things to do and it was all 5 minutes, I wouldn't want you to read something and then just say, "Oh, I read that," and just read it in a rote fashion without ingesting it, without bringing it into yourself, and without understanding it. And too often people do that. And I noticed a trend for this in the 1980s when I first started homeschooling. I noticed that the adults of the time, I would be impressed with something I had read in a homeschool magazine, or in for instance, the story that this lawyer's wife who began to homeschool her children in Texas had written for a homeschool magazine about how she developed an allegory, and she wrote the story about how the government wanted all the children to line up for bread, government bread, and how she wanted to keep her children home and have them make homemade bread, because it had more nutrition and it was fresher, and they didn't have to stand in line for it. And so she wrote this allegory, and I was so impressed with it, and I would show it, hand it to someone to read, or show it to them, and they'd give it to me later and just hand it back, and they'd be deadpan. They'd say, "Yeah, I read it." But one of the problems is reading, when it's forced on you in public school, after a while, you don't care for it. You don't, and if it's not interesting and it doesn't have a spiritual value, then you don't really learn to appreciate it, and you don't want to do it, and you just do it, and you say, "Yeah, I read it," and it doesn't have any effect on your soul. So if I were to give you 5-minute things to do, and I said, read something of value for 5 minutes and read it aloud, I'd want you to do it with some heart. If I told you, go outside for some air for 5 minutes, I wouldn't want you to just go out there and mechanically walk around, come back in and say, "Oh yeah, I did it," and check it off. I'd want you to feel something. I want you to get your senses back. And one thing that we noticed, Mr. S was in the habit of eating out because he went to preachers' meetings and he went to the commerce meetings, and he went to the civic things, and he went to a lot of things, and so he would eat wherever they were meeting. They would serve something, and he would eat. Well, since September, he has stopped eating out. He does not go to any fast foods. He doesn't eat when he goes to these meetings. He doesn't eat their food, and he only eats at home. And I only eat at home too. And what we eat has to be prepared from the freshest basic things. We don't eat things that you get out of a box or anything like that. And we have noticed that some of our senses have become keener and sharper. We're hearing things better. We're seeing things better. When we read, we're understanding it better. It's amazing how clogged up our minds are from some of the bad food. So if I were to give you 5 minutes, I will tell you something else that you can do. We call our front porch the observation deck. So if we don't really want to go out into the weather, whether it's too hot or too cold, we say, I'm going out on the observation deck just for 5 minutes. Just stand there, look around, check things out, see what you can see and hear what you can see. It changes every day. God is not boring. He changes things outside so that we're never bored. He has spring and he has summer and he has all the stages in between, and then the birds are busy with their lives, and it's never the same. It's not mechanical. It's not like a factory out there. So we go out on the observation deck when all we want is a bit of air. Now, so that is a 1 to 5 minute thing you can do. Now, sometimes women at home suffer from, they feel that they're having mental health issues because maybe they are suffering from the isolation, but really it might not be that at all. And it might be just isolation and also sameness. Have you ever thought of changing a room? Not changing a room around, but changing a room. For instance, you're sleeping in the east room. Why not go to the west room and move your room into the west part or whatever? I was observing one of the empty rooms today, thinking, I think we should move to this one. It's nicer this time of the morning. So have you ever thought about that? Just moving a room, relocating in one of the rooms, just for a change. In the olden days, what women used to do is if they got a little bit down or a little bit bored, they would just change their furniture around. They'd change things around. This is what I enjoy doing, is it gives it such a nice look. A lot of people have built careers on staging and changing rooms around for the sale of a home or for photography, and it does wonders for the mind. Now, if you are just staying home for the first time because of the circumstances, and then you're starting to realize that this is probably a good place to be, you have to realize you have a new job. You are in a new career. So what you have to do is create things to do that motivate you and regulate you, because you have to be under self-regulation now. You're not going to be told what to do by somebody in a corporation, because you're the head of the one that you're in this new job. You're the boss of the new job. So what I would suggest you do, which I find, maybe you don't need this. There are some people that don't need anything that I'm saying. That's fine. And they're just fine the way they are, and they don't want to know anything about this or be motivated. That's fine. These are just my ideas. Is that if you're in a new job, you need new equipment. So you're going to have to make sure you've got the right equipment. If you're going to start preparing foods, make sure you've got the right kind of foods and go shopping for the best. And remember the Proverbs 31 woman that everyone talks about in religious circles. She sought her food from afar. That just means you're going to have to dig a little deeper, look a little more carefully for the most excellent food and the products. So you have to have good equipment, and you have to have maybe a good wardrobe. Maybe you need to reinvent the way you dress at home. Maybe you would like to feel a little differently about what you do. And like I said, if you like to dress for a certain era, this can also be very motivating. You feel differently. Clothes should make you feel differently and also make you feel good. And so I just want to suggest now some ideas that if you are not feeling very chipper, and how important it is in the home to feel good because you have to guard it, and you can't guard if you're not alert, and you can't be alert if you're not feeling well. So I think that a lot of times we are down because we are isolated. Yes, homemaking is an isolating job, but you can connect with other people. And one of my favorite things to do is get on the phone with a friend and clean up something. One of my friends called and said, "Call me next time you've got something to do, and I'll call you when I've got something that I've got to sort through, and we can talk while we work." And another thing that can be a problem is bad health. If you have bad health, you're more easily discouraged. You're more easily depressed. And if if you have if you feel bored with your home, you need to change it and get it to a situation that you like to be in, because you're going to be looking at those four walls more than you would care to if you're new to this. So the other thing you can do, and this is great for children like this too, but you might want to do it too, is that after you've cleaned up after a meal, if you have a dining table that you can just afford to use for dining only and you're not going to use it for anything else, you can reset the table. That is a lot of fun. And then you can do it in a creative way, a pretty way. Most people have at least two sets of dishes, and you can reset it and set it up for the next meal. That's like filling your slow cooker after you've finished with a previous meal. You can just load it up again. And so these things make us feel alive. And now, especially if you're living alone, I think it's important to set the table, even if there's just you, to go ahead and set it just for the decor, just for the beauty of it. In fact, years ago, someone had a blog of table settings. Every week she put on a new table setting, and she would scout around for things in stores and antique shops, and she would just buy one of everything so she could do this table setting with a centerpiece and everything. I think that's an interesting hobby, very interesting. So bring everything as close to your idea as you possibly can. Doesn't mean you'll fulfill it completely, but one of the reasons that people don't feel successful is that they have a wrong idea of success. Like I said about the guard, somebody's going to tell you that you're not doing anything, and so you'll start to feel like you haven't succeeded. You haven't succeeded in anything. Somebody might just decide that they're going to tell you that you've never succeeded in anything. But have you gotten up in the morning and got dressed and got yourself fixed up, and have you made a list? If you can do that much, you have succeeded. And if you have been able to prepare a meal, that's success. Even if you can make a sandwich, that's success. If you have shown any kind of idea of learning a skill, that is success. That's one thing that I like to do, is learn something from my grandchildren. And one thing that we do when we get together, since they're all getting older now, they're getting licenses and they're driving. When you come and see me, I want you to teach me something that you know. And I got my first banjo lesson the other day when the one that plays a banjo drove over to see me. And then he also gave me a lesson in modernism versus Christianity or something like that. He was that smart. I mean, I'd have to find my phone and read it to you, because I wrote it all down on that phone, and but it's very brilliant. And then I can teach them something, and the next time someone comes over, they're going to have a bread baking lesson. And then they will have to teach me something, whether it's a foreign language or history, something that they're learning about. And one of the things that I learned from the 23-year-old, he was telling me he likes to study history. And he said that one of his favorite historical accounts that he had read about was about during a war, some prisoners of war that were from all different countries were together in a war camp, an internment camp, and they all got together and decided that their basic goal would be to escape, that they would live and breathe escape, and that they would, because that kept their minds alive, and they would work out elaborate escape plans. And I was fascinated with this because of our current war that we're in. Basil Fawlty says, don't mention the war, so I've tried to keep that quiet. And how to outwit them, outthwart them, outsmart them, outlive them, and outlast them, and come out of the other side of the war smarter, stronger, more creative, happier, and laughing all the way. And how much fun it is, how much better it is to keep your mind alive. So that was one of the things I learned from him, was about the people that their whole plan was to escape. And I think in a way that's the Christian's plan too, to overcome, to be overcomers. And so I also want to mention that if you're homeschooling, now I'm homeschooling you, and I want to talk to you about that, because homeschooling wasn't about making my children smart so they could go and compete with the world. It wasn't about making them educated. It was about understanding and wisdom and the right kind of how to use the knowledge in a wise way, how to apply it. And it was about being able to cope with life and understanding how things work and figuring things out and learning. And so it wasn't about making money. It wasn't about how you're going to have so much when you grow up, but it was about how to thrive. And so I wanted to tell you that that's what I'm doing for you. So you kids, even if you're under 70, you can still be homeschooled, and you can proudly say you're homeschooled, because it isn't about being smart. It's about learning how to live. And one of the things you can do if you have children at home and you're wanting to, especially in this era that we live in where everybody is rather limited, and some places very limited in where they go and what they do, is you can analyze the things that you're missing. Do you miss going to a concert? Do you miss taking your children to a tea room? Do you miss having a fashion show? We used to have the 4-H, and the girls would sew and show we'd have a fashion show after they finished. They'd all get together and we'd have a fashion show of everything that they had sewn. And you can do this at home. You can have your fashion shows, you can have your talent shows, you can have book clubs, and you can have poetry reading, and you can have anything you want to do, anything you miss, you can just recreate it yourself, probably do a much better job. And I was listening to one of my sons talk, and he had taken a course in cartooning when he was very young. And what he would do is similar to what Jane Austen would do. And what I've threatened to do is these characters that press down on you, that are maybe manipulative people, dominating people, critical people, you turn them into a cartoon. And you make a story about them. And laughing always helps you to cope with it. And one of my grandsons that likes ancient history was telling me about some of these people in ancient times, and it made history, that were governors or that were kings and queens, and some of the foolish things that they did that were recorded in history. And as comedy now, we have a lot of fun with it. But so now I want to continue a little bit about being relevant and being accepted, and that's important to us. We all need friends, we all need company. Some people not so much, but I found I had been for several months without company, and when my grandson came over to visit me, I found it very, very refreshing, very stimulating. And for Thanksgiving, we had more people. So, and I found it very, now it can be exhausting though. I can get a lot more done without people around. I can get my letters written, I can get my sewing done, I can get the things, my books sorted, things that I need to do done. I can get my garden sorted out without too much company. Company can be a great snag if you think you have to have a social life all the time. That can be an addiction that's not good for you. And if you first start staying home after working for a while, you might find a bit of a withdrawal, a bit feeling a little bit restless because of wanting to have people around. But after a while, you learn to take care of things yourself and learn that God is your best resource for encouragement. But I wanted to talk a little bit about some of you who are older now, getting elderly, how important it is, the way you act, the way you look, the way you behave. And I was talking to someone else about this, how important cleanliness is, and to look fresh, and to smell good, and to not cover up filth or a bad smell with perfumes and soaps and things like that, where you're not really clean. And one thing is to stay as much as possible on natural foods and vitamins, and not because the more pharmaceuticals you take, the more your body will start to have an odor. And as you get older, very important to have good breath. And I am so blessed because just outside the back patio I have mint leaves, different kinds of mint leaves growing, like pick one off and start chewing on one. I like that natural. I'd rather have that than a commercial, breath mint. And but also keep your body healthy. Make sure your teeth are brushed, and also eat food that is good and pure and fresh, and that helps a lot. And showers and baths are often therapy, and people who refuse to clean, to take showers, to take baths, or to bathe at all are they're either in rebellion or they're frightened of the water. And someone told me recently that he had studied a little bit about people who were in these hospitals for I don't know what they were, special, after a war, and they'd ended up in a hospital or something, that they had to be monitored, and someone had to always come at a certain time and make them take a shower or bath or bathe, because they got so reluctant, so used to not doing that they just didn't want to after a while. If you get in a habit of not bathing, and you're bragging about it, and you're saying something as a woman, and you're older, and you're saying, well, I don't bathe every day because I'm not dirty. That is a very ignorant remark, because, and children do that too. Teenagers do that. Well, I bathed last week. Just because you don't have soil on you and dirt on your fingernails does not mean you are that you do not need to bathe, because there are other things to consider. And one is how you smell, and the other is your freshness and your just body odor, things like that. If you are elderly and you are at home, or if you're not elderly and you're a homemaker, you're at home, your children, you all need to take quite seriously the idea of and the belief of bathing. When the Pilgrims came to America, they had spent 2 years it was in 1600 something. They spent 2 years in Holland having a ship built, and they learned from the Dutch. The Dutch had a saying, cleanliness is next to godliness. And of course, it's not in the Bible. So a lot of people in our current era would just reject, oh, that's not in the Bible. But the reason that they said that was it showed care and concern and courtesy to other people. So in a way, it is. It is almost next to godliness. It's a saying, and even though it's not in the Bible, it doesn't mean that you have an excuse to not shower every day. You have you have accumulated filth, even though you don't have garden dirt all over you and you're not dirty. Uh, and you must not ever brag that you don't bathe. If you want to be relevant, ladies, you need to be sure that your clothes are really clean too, and that you're fresh, and that you have a youthfulness about you. You won't if you refuse to to bathe, to have clean hair, to have fresh breath. Now here it is, 2021, going on 2022. And we think we're such an advanced society, and we're having to go back and teach. Even the was it the Apostle Paul that said, "I taught you the elements and the basics, and you should have grown so that you could teach others. But now I have to go back and teach you again these basic little primary things." Remember that? And this is what's happening as people are forgetting. I'm wondering too if they have forgotten, because we have been isolated a while, and they've forgotten that we're going to be around people, and how necessary that is. And so, ladies, one of our 5-minute routines is to go into the bathroom halfway through the day, brush your teeth again, comb your hair. If you wear lipstick, they in the 1950s they just reapply their lipstick, and or your lip balm or whatever it is you use. Spritz on a little bit of natural cologne or something like that. I know people are making some of this out of natural things, and try. That's another 5-minute boost. And I've been talking to people about 5-minute things, and another 5-minute thing that was suggested is just a 5-minute cleanup in an area where things get collected. We often have these center islands in the kitchen, and somebody will put a set of keys on there, and then somebody else will put a bag on there, and somebody else put a box on there, and pretty soon we're putting stuff on it. But when it gets cleaned off and it's clear, no one will put anything on it because they don't want it to be noticed. So just spend a 5-minute cleanup in some of the areas that get cluttered. And another thing to spend 5 minutes with is learn a way to do something. Just learn how to do something. And I have been here quite a while now. As you can see, the darkness has come upon this forest room, giving it a new atmosphere. And so I will be going soon. And so I wanted to say also, if you're elderly, one of the reasons that I brought up this thing about cleanliness and good breath is it seems like people are going to be watching us. If we start forgetting things too much, and we forget to brush our teeth, and we forget to take a shower, and we forget to wear clean clothes, and we're acting kind of dopey, they're going to start making plans, and we're going to lose control of our lives. And if you want to stay independent and relevant, and you want to have control of your money and control over where you come and where you go, and you don't want to have your driver's license taken away from you, you've got to be alert. And you've got to you've got to watch your posture, you've got to keep your mind healthy, you've got to bathe. And that's the main reason that I was telling you about this. First of all, we can't be offensive to other people. We have to be courteous. You're going to have your grandchildren around you. They don't want to be afraid to hug their grandmother because she's not taking care of herself. And they're watching us because they're thinking, what are they going to do with us? What are they going to do with us when we go daft? So one of the first signs of it is to let yourself go. Let your appearance go. Let your cleanliness go and your habits go. And also always look depressed. Always look, and they're going to find a place for you. And so Ladies, I'm just saying this for your own good. And so learn something. Spend 5 minutes, learn something. Learn to sing. If you live alone, learn to sing. Learn. You can get on. You can get all kinds of free videos online and learn a lot of different things, and or learn a new language. Learn to paint. Uh, there's so much that you can learn. Now, and the other thing is, besides keeping yourself fresh and clean, is to keep your house fresh and clean, particularly your kitchen. Keep everything nice. And now, that's not to say that you still can't get carted away. There might be some unscrupulous people that will find a way to do that. But in the meantime, let it not be your fault. And so, ladies at home and young people too, have respect for one another and be sure to begin your day taking care of your appearance, even if, quote, nobody's going to see me, because you're going to catch a glimpse of yourself in a window or a mirror as you walk past your house. I had a visit from a young lady the other day. I think she's probably 20, maybe 19, I don't know. She had the prettiest hairstyle. So I'm going to try to have her come and talk on Homemakers Radio and show how she did this hairstyle, because I think it would suit everybody. I really don't think, here's what I don't think. I don't think there should be an over 70s hairstyle. I don't think there should be an over 70s clothing style. I think it should be pretty, whatever you like. And her hairstyle was so pretty, I thought it would look good on any age. And one of the things I liked about the clothing and the hairstyles of the 1980s was it looked good on the mother and the daughter and the grandmother. The same, the hair bows, the hair clips, everything looks good. In fact, the clothing that my daughter wears, when she's finished with it, she gives it to me so I can wear it longer. And we don't do this age thing at all, because basically we wear the same length of clothing. We like it long, and we like cottons and things like that. So I would like to end this on a high note and just tell you that I have so much to tell you that I've got a whole bag full of notes that I don't even think I can read. But if you want to be able to control your life and have some goals and things like that, then you have to show some self-control in your appearance and in the appearance of your house. This is so important. This is part of being strong, as part of being independent, and also being a great influence on your descendants and being a good teacher. So I hope that you will come back next time, and I hope you have a great day. And if you'd like to leave a comment on the page on which I have posted this, you may do so. I don't have comments on the channel. Also, those of you who have encouraged me, I want to thank you very much, and God bless you all, and I'll see you next time. Bye.